Iran is a country of traditions. The athletic movements of the Isfahan Gym Club members, inherited from their ancestors, make the visitors watch in awe. Trainings are tests of strength and power. In these shows, elements of ancient and medieval tournaments are transformed into sport and spectacle. During the exercises, they use peculiar devices, heavy maces and chains. And their whirls are reminiscent of the dervish dance. With its population of 70 million, Iran, the former Persia, is the largest country in the Middle East. This beautiful country could be a very attractive destination for tourists who are always on the lookout for something new. Snow-capped mountains, wide-ranging deserts, green oases, wonderful old cities, turquoise-domed mosques, and monuments of cultural history and architecture declared as World Heritage Sites are waiting to be explored here. From the heart of Europe, it takes about 4 hours by plane to reach the capital that has a population of 13 million spread out at the foot of the Elburz Mountains. Tehran, the city that became the newly chosen royal residence of the country only at the end of the 18th century. During the reign of the Qajar dynasty, the country that was known as Persia at the time lagged behind Europe in its socio-economical development. In 1925, Reza Khan, an Iranian military officer who previously had also served in the Russian Tsar's army, took power and, after having himself crowned Shah as a supreme ruler, established the Pahlavi dynasty. In 1941, during World War II, the Brits, who had considerable influence in the region, removed the German sympathizer Shah and put the young Mohammad Reza on the throne. The Sadabad Palace complex, that consists of 18 separate buildings surrounded by a beautiful park, was built in the Pahlavi era and used as a summer residence by the Shah and his family. An exhibition is set up in 7 palaces that are richly decorated, mostly by Muslim motifs, with valuable furniture, gorgeous Persian rugs, lavish festive attire, family pictures, china, weapons including decorative swords, and other valuable items collected by the Pahlavis on display inside. Reza Pahlavi and his beautiful wife Farah were very popular with the Western tabloid press in the 60s and 70s. They published long, detailed photo articles in magazines about the Pahlavis' luxurious palaces, the cheetahs they kept on leashes instead of dogs, and the glamorous balls and receptions they held. The turning point came in 1979. With the lead of Ayatollah Khomeini, the Islamists seized power, took the employees of the American embassy hostage, ousted the Shah, forced the women to wear chadors again, reintroduced gender segregation, and reversed all processes of modernization. Iran became a Shiite-led country, with Islam as the state's religion. The Sadabad Royal Garden and Palace were open to the public as a combined museum. If you're in the northern part of Tehran, near the Sadabad Palace at the foot of the mountains, make sure you visit the Niavaran palaces that counted as Shah Mohammad Reza's second favorite place. The palaces are hidden in a beautifully landscaped 5-hectare park that boasts ancient trees and await the visitors with an especially rich and versatile collection, including former family memorabilia. It became obvious that although during the reign of the last Shah the country developed and became more modern due to the fabulous riches that came from oil, a gaping difference formed between the wasteful, lavish lifestyle of the rich and the everyday struggling of the poor people in the cities and in the country. The enormous fortunes that poured in for oil didn't serve to better the life of the general populace even after the Shah left power. Despotism was replaced by religious dictatorship. The political and economical situation of Iran has only just started to consolidate now, about 20 years after the death of Khomeini. One of the main mosques stands in the former commercial center, the mostly covered bazaar. Its old name, Shah Mosque, was changed, and now it bears the name of Khomeini, the religious and political leader of the Muslim Revolution. Khomeini, who died in 1989, is still highly respected by many, even today. You can see his photo with his signature beard and turban everywhere, including the bazaar. Nowadays, however, not only crowds of simple Iranians, but also theologists believe that the country's road to ascent is to separate the practice of power and religion. It's easy to get lost in the maze-like bazaar. The huge and varied selection of goods is almost dizzying for foreign visitors. The fairy tale atmosphere, the cavalcade of colors and scents, but even the goods and the craftsman articles are pretty much the same in all Arab bazaars. The difference is in the behavior of the people. In Tehran, don't expect the usual assertiveness of merchants you so frequently encounter in Arab countries. Iranians are a bit prouder and more reserved. The National or Archaeological Museum of Iran could be either the starting or the ending point of your visit that will surely be full of memorable experiences and sights. It will give you memories to treasure, and it's very high on the list of must-see things in Tehran. In the building that was under construction from 1935 to 1937, the history of Iranian culture spanning several millennia is presented on 2,744 square meters. The unbelievably rich and expertly selected collection consists of earthenware, valuable stone statues, wood carvings, metal tools, and original stales. Through the most imperishable artifacts remaining from the time of Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes, the age of the Achaemenids comes to life. That is, the Persian Empire, which came into existence a little more than 2,500 years ago, after the early Elamite and Median era. The reliefs of the audience hall, depicting Persian and Median warriors, the mythical animal representations with an emphasis on figures of lions and bulls, and also the world-famous friezes in the Apadana Palace with the images of the conquered peoples paying homage, all originate from Persepolis. You can marvel at the various law books and important documents of the highly civilized ancient cultures written in cuneiform script. The museum provides a very good overview of the later Parthian and the pre-Islamic Sassanid era. The Achaemenid relics are real treats for the fans of Persian culture, especially the famous Proskinesis relief of Darius that depicts a typical ancient Persian form of greeting. Clay seals, a fragment of the Apadana stairs, and the equally famous life-size figure of Prince Partus, along with a copy of the Code of Hammurabi, are all displayed here. The original of the stela is in the Louvre in Paris. The gold and silver coins from the Ala Bouye and the Ghaznavi eras are uniquely elaborate. The cuneiform slabs were once used for books. However, the library of the Bastan Museum also keeps paper-based volumes that give us clues on how to read the stone tablets. Here you can find all the publications that have ever been written about Persian archaeology, history, literature, and architecture. You can see many works originally written in English and French, along with their translations as well. The Glassware and Ceramic Museum, that is located in an exquisitely sophisticated Quasar Palace, offers surprisingly exciting things for visitors to see. This building was the residence of the Iranian Prime Minister and home to the Egyptian consulate for a while. In terms of proportions and internal structure, the 19th century building shows the influence of a peculiar combination of Eastern and Western art. An ornate flight of wooden stairs leads up to the upper level, and you'll be greeted by a stuccoed ceiling upon entering the hall. The rich collection of ceramics and glassware presents how the trends in art have changed over 3 millennia. Our next destination is the world-famous Tehran Carpet Museum. The history and culture of Persian rugs dates back 5,000 years. As its name shows, the originally handmade Persian rug originates from Persia, that is, Iran today. The ancient Persians wanted to make their residences more cozy, so they started making handmade rugs with designs of plants and animals they saw in nature. These rugs are done by a double knot weaving technique, so they're very durable and last up to even 3 generations. The value of Persian rugs is measured by the knot count per square meter, which can range from 90,000 up to 1.5 million knots per square meter, depending on whether it's made of wool or silk fibers. So the smaller the knots, the more durable and valuable the rug is. This special rug that was made in the early 20th century shows a Western influence, depicting the family trees of American presidents. Here you can also marvel at a copy of the world's oldest known handmade Persian rug. The original that dates back to the 5th century was found in Siberia, and currently it's the property of the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Russia. We're heading south from Tehran, traveling about 700 kilometers. Where the Dasht-e Kavir clay desert and its neighbor, the Dasht-e Lut sand desert meet, at the foot of a high and barren chain of mountains lined by dried-out salt lakes, we arrive at the city of Yazd. This ancient settlement that lies at 1,200 meters above sea level is the center of Iran's fire-worshipping of Zoroaster religion that has its origins in Persia. According to the world's first monotheist religion, the dead must not be buried or burnt, lest they pollute the sacred elements of fire and earth. So the dead are carried up to the dakhmas, the towers of silence, built on the mountaintops and left for the vultures in an enclosed area that is surrounded by walls. Later, they throw all of the bleached white bones in one central grave hole and pour acid on them so that absolutely nothing remains of them. Well before the first Jewish temple, the birth of Christ, or Muhammad's call to prophecy, Zarathustra preached the one and almighty God, the battle between good and evil, and the apocalypse to all. According to the teachings of Zarathustra, God is the wisest Lord, Ahura Mazda, and the benign creator of all. The world was originally good, and the evil destructive spirit comes from Ahriman. According to the Persian religion, the world is the battlefield where the war between the forces of good and evil takes place. After Zarathustra, or Zoroaster, the followers of this religion are called Zartostis in Iran and Parsis in India. They fled to India to escape from Islam. The Zoroastrian Magi threw a plant named Haoma on the fire, then inhaled the smoke under a blanket and made their prophecies based on their visions. The fire that has been kept alive since 470 AD in the most famous fire temple of Yazd represents God, so it may only be approached with the utmost respect and completely clean. Fire is the creation of Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Wisdom, and as the seat of light and life, it permeates all other creatures. All fires are sacred, and royal presents are offered to them in the temples. The followers of Zoroaster believe that just like flames, man also strives upwards to reach God. Fire is the symbol of justice and honor, and it's the channel between God and victims. Since the 7th century, after Islam rose to power, The believers in this ancient religion of Iran have been massively persecuted. Today, the ratio of Zoroastrian believers is under 10%, even in Yazd. The interesting exhibition at the Yazd Water Museum explains the construction and operation of the qanats, the system of underground water canals that have been widely used in the country for centuries. This method allows the transportation of life-giving water from the wells hiding at the feet of the faraway mountains to great distances with the minimum of evaporation. In many places, wooden mills are used to bring up the water. Often, the water carried deep down in the canals under the palaces, residences, or mosques is used to create baths. All over Yazd, you can see many wind catchers, or bazaars, that look like chimneys with windows, which are actually natural desert air conditioners or solar chimneys. With hot weather like this, it's necessary to cool the air. The drafts going through the openings and wind ducts of the towers make the heat tolerable and cool the water of the underground canals and reservoirs. The most noteworthy Islamic structure of the city is the Friday Mosque, with its slender minarets that are considered the tallest in Iran. The mosque was built in the 12th century, in the Seljuk times, in the place of the former fire temple, and it was decorated in subsequent centuries by colorful, most often turquoise, mosaic-like tiles. The wraparound calligraphic Arab letters describe quotes from the Quran, the holy book of the Islamists. The mihrab was built to face the direction of Mecca, the holy city, and believers always pray facing that direction too. From the expansive yard of the mosque, a flight of steps goes down to the underground canal, where the ritual washing can be performed before prayers. In Islamic countries, this is an important part of the ritual everywhere. There are places where you're only required to wash your feet, but more often than not, a full ablution is mandatory. It can be observed that the stricter the religious rules of a country, the more rigorous its regulations on bathing are. Not far from the Friday Mosque is the Shrine of the 12 Imams, the well-known place of pilgrimage of the Shiites. On the main square, next to the bazaar, stands the Mir Shahmakh, built in 1437 as a bath for the mosque and a caravanserai for tired travelers. The ornate, high arcaded facade was added to it in the 19th century. The square in front of it is a venue for religious celebrations. We're headed towards the east to the city of Kerman, from Yazd, the geographic center of Iran. This heavily populated settlement was set up next to the famous Silk Road, the caravan road from Iran to Afghanistan and India. Already Marco Polo, the famous traveler, wrote about the city, its carpet weavers, and the richness of its bazaar. Just like in all Oriental bazaars, they sell all kinds of nuts and seeds here. Plantations of the world-famous Iranian pistachio are located in the areas surrounding the city. The nuts and seeds offered in the Arab bazaars are enjoyed and consumed in large quantities by the locals. Besides hazelnuts, it's pine nuts, sesame seeds, pistachios, and cashews that are the highest in demand. After their long and tiring trips on camel, horse, or donkeyback, the guests of the caravanserai found recreation and relaxation in the hammam, or the bath. The travelers, merchants, or members of the clergy used the caravanserais for overnight accommodation and bath services, just like tourists and businessmen use wellness hotels today. Pools filled with water of varying temperature from cool to hot, and massages were offered to provide refreshment and recreation already centuries ago. One of Kerman's baths was changed into a museum where wax figures portray the services of the hammam. In the middle of the domed halls, the large octagonal pools were filled with pleasant, lukewarm water, while the water temperature of the smaller, triangular pools in the corners ranged from icy cold to steaming hot. The rooms were heated by steam, and that was used to keep warm the marble bench where the massages were done as well. It's worth paying a visit to the caravanserai located in the area of the Vakil Bazaar near the baths. These buildings comprise the 17th century group of monuments from the Safavid age, collectively known as the Ganj Ali complex. The caravanserai is accessible through a well-kept park. The goods brought from afar, as well as the animals, donkeys, and camels, were kept on the ground floor, while the merchants stayed upstairs. The old scales at the gate served for weighing the goods. There are several ornate mosques around the bazaar that crowds of believers could and still can attend up to this day. The Allah il Allah call to prayer sounds 5 times a day. In the old days, it was natural that the muezzins walked up the narrow spiral stairs of the mosques and used the volume of their own voice to address the believers. Today, it's not rare that you can hear the mullah's prayers through microphones and loudspeakers. Through the dry semi-desert ranges of the Kuwi-Rud Mountains that go through Iran in a northwest to southeast direction, we're approaching Rayen, a phenomenal memorial town surrounded by high walls, considered the little sister of the earthquake-shaken city of Bam. You can see patches of snow in the peaks of the 4,465-meter-high, now inactive Kuwi Hazar volcano. The fortress, the citadel surrounded by impressive walls, was built in the Sassanid age, before the spread of Islam. The high walls provide a great view of the uniquely shaped adobe and brick buildings of the once busy merchant town. Today, since nobody lives within the walls on a permanent basis, the settlement has a bit of a ghost town feeling, with its web of narrow alleys and peculiar atmosphere. The elegant reception halls in the imposing courtyard of the citadel have been nicely renovated and renewed. These were where the leaders of the rich camel caravans were accommodated. Traditional Iranian architecture has preserved its continuity, and although from time to time it was diverted by internal political conflicts or attacks from abroad, it's managed to create a style that is quite unmistakable. The most important forms of Iranian architecture were primarily determined by the building materials available. As hard clay could be found most everywhere in the highlands, it promoted the most primitive of all building techniques. People also used mud, which they pressed into blocks as hard as possible, then left it to dry. This technique, widely used in Iran since the most ancient of times, has never been completely abandoned. The ample reserves of strong, malleable earth, together with the durable lime mortar, also promoted the development of the brick. Another feature widely preferred by Iranian architecture is rich symbolic geometry, using such simple shapes as the circle or the square. So, the designs are often based on a symmetric layout highlighting the rectangular shape of internal courts and halls. Certain design elements of Persian architecture have been present throughout the entire history of Iran. Over the centuries, these elements have recurred in the most various types of buildings erected for a wide range of functions under the auspices of a long line of emperors. The city of Mahan is located 40 kilometers southeast of Kerman. An outstanding architectural and artistic attraction is the shrine of Namatullah Vali, a Sufi mystic poet who lived in the 15th century and is revered as a saint. Shiite believers are still thoroughly familiar with the life, works, and prophecies of the Iranian Nostradamus. The gorgeous Eden-like park that is full of cypress trees is lined by walls with a colorful tile decoration built in the 19th century during the reign of the Qajar dynasty. In the side chambers, you can visit an exhibition of religious relics related to the Sufi saint. If you pass through the carpet-covered main nave of the 17th century mosque, you'll reach the grave of the holy poet Namatullah Vali in a separate, shrine-like room. Two forms of poetry were known in the Persian Empire: ballads and epics. Ballads later changed into other forms like lyrics, hymns, and satires. Epics are lengthy ballads. After the Arab invasion, the Persian language became richer with Arab words and poetry became more mellow. The style of poetry still known today developed in the 19th century. Since the Persian language is soft, melodic, and very descriptive, and the words have several meanings, the thoughts of the poet can be interpreted in various ways, so the Persian language is considered very rich and poetic. From the flat roof of the building, you can enjoy a great view of the Onion Dome and elegant minarets of the mosque. The Bagh-e-Shahzad Park in the outskirts of Mahan is considered the most beautiful garden in the whole country. A road that leads to the palace, hidden in the upper end of the park, is lined by flowing fountains and freshwater pools full of fish. A lot of locals come to the park around dusk to relax in the late afternoon hours. Iran is a land of parks. You'll find green areas planted with cypress trees, evergreens, and flowers in every city. They place special emphasis on building fountains and pools. According to Oriental philosophy, the sound of flowing water is very soothing. On the way to Shiraz, the city of roses and nightingales, Sarvistan is one of the most beautiful examples of fortresses built in the 5th century Sassanid era. The building was most likely also used as a hunting castle 1,500 years ago. A triple portico forms the entrance of the palace that houses reception halls of surprising arches and size inside. The central hall was covered by a brick cupola. The ruins have been expertly preserved for later generations. In the ranges of the Zagros Mountains, the light of the setting sun is reflected by the dried-out, flat, salty clay lake bed that's only temporarily filled with water. Our next destination is the seat of Fars province, the former capital of Iran, the gorgeous city of Shiraz. On the road coming from Tehran, in the outskirts of Shiraz, stands the Quran Gate. From here, you can have a great view of the oasis city that lies in one of the largest basins of the Zagros. 150 years ago, the eminent Hungarian Orientalist Armin Vambery, dressed as a dervish in a caravan, could see how the true Muslims fell on their knees, giving thanks to Allah for allowing them to reach this safe haven after the trials and tribulations of traveling through the desert. Shiraz is the city of poets. The statue of poet Kayoué Kermani was made by Abdul Ali Gasradasti. The citadel that was built in the 1760s stands in the heart of the city. The fortress was commissioned by Karim Khan, who declared Shiraz the capital of Persia in 1750. There are circular bastions at the corners of its 12-meter-high brick walls. One of them is leaning like the Tower of Pisa. The name Shiraz might sound familiar to many after the red wine that's becoming more and more popular. It's actually the name of a Persian grape variety after which both the city and the wine were named. You can still see vineyards in the outskirts of the city. The Shah, or Royal Lamp Mosque, is at the same time the shrine of Reza's brother, the 8th Imam, highly respected by the Shiites. A plethora of shiny glasses and mirrors that almost completely cover the walls are a characteristic feature of Shiraz mosques. Another typical design element is a mosaic-like representation of flowers, primarily roses, on the facades and arches of the arcades, but also on the walls of the mosques overlooking the courts. Sometimes it seems as if the rose trees or rose bushes come to life on the walls of mosques and madrasas, Muslim religious schools, often adjoined to them. The Islamic architecture of Iran borrows many ideas from ancient times. The invasion of Islamic armies and the fall of the Persian Empire ironically led to the creation of exceptional religious buildings. In the new era, art forms such as calligraphy, stucco work, mirror crafts, and mosaics were closely tied to architecture. Archaeological excavations supply ample evidence to support the fact that Sassanid architecture influenced the architecture of the Islamic world. Semicircular and oval arches were very important features in the old Persian architecture, and led Safavid architects to prove their exceptional talent by constructing huge domes. As the German archaeologist Hoof said, the cupola is the ruling element of Persian architecture. The Vakil Mosque was named after King Karim Khan because he actually didn't take the title of Shah, but called himself Vakil, a governor of the people. The twisted monolith columns of the Vakil Mosque are extremely interesting. There are altogether 48 of them. Next to the mihrab, the shrine facing the direction of Mecca, stands the 14-step marble pulpit, the minbar. This is where the mullah calls the congregation of believers to pray on Fridays. In the Vakil Mosque, the main ideologists and religious leaders of Iran are portrayed by photos and paintings. You can also see the familiar picture of Ayatollah Khomeini here. After his death, Ali Khamenei Hojjatul Islam was elected as the main religious leader of the country. His portrait can be seen not only here, but also in official buildings and offices. Iran ranks number 7 on the list of historic monuments, museums, and other cultural sites in the world. The UNESCO also considers the country one of the cradles of civilization. Not far from the mosque is the famous Naranjistan, or in English, the Orange Blossom House of Qavam, the residence of a former governor and protector of Shiraz. Today, Naranjistan is a museum that belongs to the city and the National Cultural Heritage Foundation. The elaborate artistic workmanship and rich, sophisticated details of the potteries, inlaid ceilings and walls, glass mosaic doors and windows, and fireplace coverings is captivating. A descendant of the owner of the palace writes, "No doubt it's a must-see. Go to Shiraz, visit this breathtaking museum, and see with your own eyes all the culture and elegance that this century-old building represents." There are fabulous places and homes all over Iran that are parts of museums and the cultural heritage. Many people in Iran know what true elegance is and how to live in beauty. Actually, they've known it for centuries, and many generations grew up with that. I think we, in our Western society, have given ourselves so much over to our phobias about how this world is supposed to be and how things must work by our rules that we simply forget that the pillars of civilization and the carriers of tradition are countries like this, like Iran. Another beautiful place not to be missed is the famous Iram Garden, known for its rose garden and cypress trees. The house once belonged to the Qashqai family. Today, it's part of the Shiraz University and the headquarters of the law school. The Vakil Bazaar has more or less managed to preserve its 18th century atmosphere. Originally, 4 caravanserais surrounded the extensive building complex of the bazaar. You can find beautiful creations of Shiraz folk art and crafts in the many hundred-meter-long maze of the bazaar. Fine textiles, shiny gold and silver jewelry, elaborately hammered copper objects, oriental spices, and fresh fruits can all be found in the rich selection of goods. At the first sign of fatigue, it's worth sitting down for some great tea or a piece of traditional cake in any of the friendly establishments. You can buy true copies of ancient Persian coins that are made on the spot. The old bazaar dates back to the era of Shah Abbas. Its layout is one of the best among Oriental bazaars. 74 proportionate arches span the curved alcoves and serve to support the roof structure. The Shrine of Sa'di, one of the greatest poets of Shiraz, is located in a gorgeous park. The 13th century poet created rhymes about the pleasures of life. His poems and verse-infused anecdotes written in prose under the title of Gulistan, the Rose Garden, and Bustan, the Orchard, are still taught in the schools of Iran. The most famous poems of Sa'di are an intrinsic part of world literature. The English translation of one of his poems graces the entrance of the UN building in New York. When you pass by the modern shrine that was constructed in the middle of the past century, you can reach an underground freshwater canal full of fish, the water of which is traditionally believed to make women fertile. Among Persian poets, Omar Khayyam is the most widely known abroad, but the name of Sa'di and Hafiz are equally familiar within the country. The Shrine of Hafiz, the legendary poet of Shiraz, is an octagonal, canopy-like structure that also awaits his consistently large number of visitors in a wonderful park surrounded by a rose garden. Those who know Persian literature are still impressed by the mystic effects of the poems of the 14th century poet. The current name of the country is Iran. It's an ancient name that means land of the Aryans. This was the name of the empire of the first great dynasty, the Achaemenids. The name Persia also originates from the empire that emerged over 2,500 years ago, more specifically, from the name of the closer home of the dynasty, the province of Fars, once known as Parsa. This is where Persepolis, the city of Persians, is located, as the ancient Greeks called it. Since Europe gained information mainly from the works of Greek historians, primarily of Herodotus, Persian names are remembered in their Greek form in the Western world. The Iranians know the ruined city by the name of Takht-e-Jamshid, which means the throne of Jamshid. According to Iranian mythology, the city was actually founded by the legendary lawmaker of the first dynasty, Jamshid. Historical and archaeological data indicate that King Darius I started the construction of Persepolis in 500 BC. The enormous stone terrace, the supporting wall system decorated by gorgeous friezes, the impressive stairway of the famous Hall of 100 Columns, and the stately reception hall, the Apadana, are all linked to his name. The function of the new Persian capital was to celebrate the most important holiday, the spring equinox they called Nowruz. Xerxes I, the son of the great founder, continued his father's work. He had another palace and harem built, and that was when the imposing gateway of the palace complex was created as well. Under Artaxerxes I, the actual construction work was basically finished. Subsequent, less important Persian kings made only minor changes to it. The rock graves of the kings were carved into the limestone rock walls above the palaces in the early 300s BC. The invasion of Alexander the Great from Macedonia ended the glory of the Achaemenid dynasty and Persepolis. After conquering Susa, the capital of ancient Persia, the Greek Macedonian armies marched into the ceremonial city as well. Not much later, the occupied Persepolis was set on fire. All wooden structures burnt down, with only bare walls and columns remaining. It's still a question of debate whether Alexander the Great burnt the city down on purpose or the fire was accidental. Anyhow, in 331 BC, the eighth wonder of the ancient world, Persepolis, was destroyed, along with the Persian Empire. The destruction was made complete by the earthquakes that knocked down the remaining columns that were still standing. Although a number of travelers visited the ruined city already in the Middle Ages, scientific exploration began only as late as the 19th century. This is where the 2500th anniversary of the Persian Empire was celebrated in 1971, during the reign of the last Shah. The envoys of the various nations, Medians, Babylonians, Egyptians, Scythians, Indians, and Ethiopians, who brought a plethora of gifts to the Persian Shah, almost come to life in the reliefs that miraculously remained intact. Persian kings had their tombs carved into the rock face of the Naqsh-e Rustam, only a few kilometers away from Persepolis. From among the 7 royal graves, only the first one belonging to Darius I could be identified without a doubt. The tombs are built in a similar pattern. All of them have a door that opens into the crypt from a cross-shaped, smoothly polished facade. Semi-pillars support the protruding roof, and the facades of the grave chambers remind us of palaces. The royal tombs, ornamented by reliefs of battle scenes from the 3rd and 4th centuries, created for the Sassanids, the last dynasty prior to the Arab invasion, several centuries after the fall of the Persian Empire, are also truly worth a visit. A multiple-level fire temple stands right next to the royal tombs. The picture of semi-columns and gates carved into the sandstone are reminiscent of Petra in Jordan or Lykia in Turkey. Isfahan is considered the most beautiful city in Iran. The city was built at an altitude of 1,600 meters above sea level, on the bank of the Zayande-Rud River. Isfahan, Nes Yahan. In English, Isfahan is half of the world. That's how people once referred to the former capital of the Safavid kings, the place where you can marvel at the most magnificent creations of Islamic architecture and art. Isfahan was chosen as the capital of Iran by Shah Abbas in 1598. Glorious mosques, palaces, and bridges were built in the city, along with lavish gardens and parks, in the course of a few decades. The district of Christian Armenians who settled in Isfahan at the beginning of the 1600s is a unique spot in the city. The excellent Armenian artisans and merchants raised a number of Orthodox or Eastern Christian churches. The largest one among them is the Vank, or All Saviors Cathedral. The paintings and frescoes made in the 1660s and 70s representing biblical scenes are an interesting combination of European and Persian art. The cathedral's episcopal throne is a truly masterful work of art. The cupola and the walls of the church are decorated by colorful frescoes that depict the events of the life of Christ, his entry to Jerusalem, his miracles, and the Armenian version of the Last Supper. The Armenian Museum across from the cathedral presents the troubled fate and history of the people of the world's first Christian country. Here in Persia, or Iran, Armenians were never subjected to such atrocities and persecution as in the former Ottoman Empire. If you wish to explore the Islamic mementos of Isfahan, you should start your trip at the Friday Mosque. The first smaller Arab-style mosque was originally built in the place of an ancient fire temple in the 10th century. Isfahan was the capital of the great Seljuk Empire. To announce its rank and the role it played in the protection of Sunnite Islam, Grand Vizier Nizam al-Mulk developed the old main mosque into a building complex unparalleled in the Islamic world. Archaeological findings prove that the Jami, built after 1086, is the fourth structure on the site. In 1052, Nasiri Khusrau, a well-known traveler of the era, also wrote praising words about the city and the mosque. The two masterful Seljuk cupola halls have forever tied this monument to the name of this dynasty. The southern Qiblat side cupola is the creation of Nizam al-Mulk, as attested to by an inscription as well. A few years later, Taj al-Mulk, the adversary of the Grand Vizier, had his own dome built on the other side, the so-called Grey Cupola. Many consider it to be the most beautiful cupola of Persian architecture, and in fact, there are only very few pieces of architecture where structure and decoration combine in such perfect unity. Several graceful bridges span the Zayandeh River. The most beautiful among them is the Kaju Bridge. It's 155 meters long, 14 meters wide, and has 26 arches. It's a multifunctional structure, not only providing safe crossing, but also serving as a lock and a water level regulator at the same time. The two arcades of the bridge were favorite resting places of the local dignitaries in the time of Shah Abbas. Today, we can also feel like dignitaries sipping delicious Iranian tea at one of the tea houses on the bridge. Just like in other Arab countries, tea is more popular than coffee in Iran. They also like the apple tea that is best known from Turkey. At the tea houses, you can also satisfy your craving for a shisha. The shaking or tilting minaret is a special local feature. If you lean on it and shake it a bit, the minaret starts to sway as if it were drunk, probably caused by the vibrations. Of course, only in theory, as alcohol is prohibited for Iranians. If you go back to the riverbank, don't miss the bridge Siosep Pol or Alaverdi Khan. Once, camel caravans passed through the 400-year-old brick bridge. In the evening, girls wearing veils and black chadors and boys in jeans walk on the illuminated bridge holding hands. But here, it doesn't mean that they're homosexuals. One of the most beautiful sections downtown is the Chehel Sotun, a 40-pillar palace and its well-groomed park. This is the palace where the throne hall of Shah Abbas was. The palace was named after the reflection of its 18 slender wooden columns doubled in the water of the pool in front of it. The Persians rounded the number up, since the number 40 not only represented a round figure, but also the idea of numerous or plenty. You'll see a captivating canopy-like painted coffered ceiling above the wooden pillar heads. The Great Hall of the building is a must-see, where you can marvel at paintings of famous battle scenes made in the 19th century in the time of the Kaju dynasty. The depiction of humans was not as strictly prohibited for the Iranian Shiites as for the Sunnites of the Arab countries. The rest of the pictures portray the Persian emperors of the past 400 years, among them Shah Nadir, who had the peacock throne of the Indian Moghuls brought to Persia as a trophy of war. Shah Abbas II, the son of Safi I, was a member of the Safavid dynasty. He inherited the throne at the age of 9 upon his father's death. His 4 brothers were blinded as a precaution. During his reign, Persia didn't have to fight against the attack of the Ottoman Empire. Actually, it could even expand its borders as it grabbed Kandahar from the Mughal Empire. In 1650, his fleet defeated the Portuguese Armada, so he could take control over the entire Persian Gulf. With his domestic policy, he continued the efforts of his predecessors to centralize the whole country. Significant architectural relics of his reign are the Chehel Sotun Palace and the Hoju Bridge. He died in Hosrababad, and he was buried at the Shiite church center Gome, according to the family's tradition. Imam Square, or formerly the Shah Square, is the impressive main square of Isfahan. It's huge, one of the largest in the world, with a length of 500 meters and a width of 160 meters. Only the Tiananmen Square in Beijing is larger. In the middle of it, people played polo games in the era of Shah Abbas. At both ends, you can still see the marble columns that once served as gates. On the western side of the square is the Ali Gate. It means tall gate, and this is the real entrance of the main square. Shah Abbas had the smaller pavilion that formerly stood here redesigned and turned it into a real palace. There are 60 rooms in the building. Some of them feature wall paintings depicting the members of Shah Abbas' court. Thousands of years ago, traveling merchants already told sagas about the wonderful recreational place in the slopes of the Zagros Mountains and the shady gardens of the oasis that lies on the banks of the Zayandeh River. The green oasis later became a trade settlement and eventually developed into a rich royal seat where the best architects of Persia could experiment freely with their ideas and carry out the wildest dreams of their contractors. That's how Isfahan, the city that boasts the highest number of the most beautiful structures in the region between the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf, became the second largest city of Iran with its 4 million inhabitants. If you climb up the 112 steps, you'll be rewarded by an unforgettable view from the deck on the top. Looking to the south, you can see the blue cupola and the minarets of the Imam Mosque. This building incorporates all the beauty of Persian Islamic architecture. Its glazed tile facade is breathtaking. Across from it rises the huge, colorful dome of the Sheikh Lotfallah Mosque, and to the north there's the entrance of the several-kilometer-long bazaar. There was a fountain once in the middle of the terrace. The fabulously beautiful Lotfallah Mosque was completed in 1619. The sheikh it was named after was a doctor, revered as a Shiite saint. Lately, it's been considered probable that the mosque was reserved for the harem of the Shah. The rectangular praying room can be accessed through a relatively short corridor. The light that comes through the trellised windows of the cupola lends a slightly mystical atmosphere to the interiors. The dominating colors are blue, gold, and yellow, with the internal decoration reminiscent of the designs of Persian rugs. In 1000 AD, Isfahan had more than 100 mosques and Quran schools, 2,000 caravanserais, and 300 public baths. The name of the Isfahan Bazaar became a notion in Iran. In the maze of the age-old, ancient covered bazaar, you can find all the products of Iran. In addition to the carefully hammered shiny bowls of the coppersmiths, the valuable Persian rugs, and the fancy clothes, an endless selection of souvenirs, dried fruits, oriental sweets, and alcohol-free beer is also offered. You can bargain almost everywhere, but it requires a lot of patience. The huge bazaar that is spread out in an area of 30 square kilometers leads right into the heart of the city, to the Maidan Imam. Contrary to other historic cities, the old town Isfahan is still vibrant with life. You can see artisans work under the arcades and their workshop service shop windows. Anyone can watch how mosaics, miniatures, calligraphies, or traditionally designed silk or screen-printed cotton fabrics are made. And of course, the famous Isfahan rugs are still among the most sought-after articles. Finally, we must pay a visit to the most monumental site of Isfahan, the Imam Mosque. This perhaps most colorful and most spectacular mosaic-covered building complex of the country was constructed between 1612 and 1630. The entrance arch has amazing stalactite decorations. It has two gorgeous cylindrical minarets towering above the main facade. The closed inner courtyard behind the cupola forms an acute angle with the entrance acts. The Savistan, or main praying hall, is a central part of the mosque. Its domed main hall reaches up to 54 meters. The shrine, or mihrab, and the pulpit, or minbar, next to it both face Mecca. Today, the mosque is open to visitors as a museum. It has two madrasas, or Islamic clerical schools, that joined it a long time ago. The Persian, Arabic, and Seljuk Turkish styles have left their marks on mosques, madrasas, and shrines alike. The old Oriental trends were creatively boosted by the Islamic influences, which are also reflected by the harmonic proportions and the clean lines of the mosque, thereby giving spectators the impression of absolute perfection. The sight of the Imam Square at night is unforgettable. It's worth roaming the city of Isfahan. You'll bump into cheerful singing or dancing men here and there. They would surely love to have fun with and enjoy the company of women, but strict Shiite traditions prohibit that. Wrapped in their chadors, the women glide like black crows in the streets on their way home. Young people are clearly tired of gender segregation, but they can only hope that the strict regulations will ease one day. Khoda Hafez. Goodbye. Let's say farewell to them and to Iran for now.